I was Wonder Woman for a day. I was a young actor living in New York, and I got an audition for the film Wonder Woman. I read the script, and I knew there was no way I was getting this role. The casting director, he'd never look at you or up from the sides when you auditioned for him. But I decided I didn't care. For one day, I would be Wonder Woman. My friend, she was a professional makeup artist. She did my hair, my makeup. I got a costume, and believe me, in New York, you do not wear costumes to audition. But I put on a trench coat, and I went to the audition. Of course, the casting director, he didn't look up, and at a certain point in the script, when I'm supposed to tell the other character, I am Wonder Woman, I dropped my trench. He still didn't look up. But I didn't say my line. I remained silent until he finally looked up and I said, I am Wonder Woman. And then I just turned around and walked out. It was amazing. Until I got outside and it was pouring rain. It's impossible to get a taxi in Times Square in the rain. But then I reminded myself, you are Wonder Woman. And I took off the trench, walked out in the middle of Times Square, and instantly got a taxi. I remained as Wonder Woman for the rest of the day. I love being a woman. There are significant advantages I have as a woman. I can be strong, yet still appreciate a man opening my door. I can dress the way I want and love it. Of course, I've experienced the inappropriate challenges women face, which is not okay. However, I choose to face it head on. I choose not to be a victim. I am who I am for the things that I have gone through in my life. I do not wait for things to happen for me. I make them happen. Rather than offense, disgust, fear over the absurd behavior of some, I address it. I sometimes use it to my advantage. It is amazing what you can learn by listening when there's the assumption that you're just in the room to get them a cup of coffee. I'm not saying it's right. Of course it isn't. And I'm not saying it's not exhausting. Of course it is. But I choose to be Wonder Woman. Until Weinstein got caught, the main question I got asked was, how did I go from being a model, actor, producer, to co-founder and CEO of a technology company? Funny thing is, I ask myself that question all the time. I live my life. And what I mean by that is I'm open to allowing my life to shape and evolve through lessons learned. I write my narrative. Some people have always known what they want it to be. They take that path and they're brilliant. My husband knew as a teen he would be a surgeon. He took that path and is brilliant and loves it. Not me. I dive into things fully, I shift and I adjust, but I never said as a kid, I want to be the CEO of a technology company, or any company for that matter. But I did know I didn't want to live my life by fear, what ifs, or if I only had. Honestly, my greatest fear is not trying, and my motto is, don't compromise yourself. Trust what you know is right. By not wanting to regret, I leave myself and my company open to possibilities. I have a plan, but I don't lock it down with a key. I'm flexible in how things evolve. From the outside, my path would not seem normal, when in truth, it makes complete sense. I remember as a little kid, sitting on a teeter-totter with my friend Laura, trying to balance it just right so that both of our feet were not touching the ground. Basically, impossible. My life sometimes feels like that teeter-totter, one direction and then the other. I have 2 beautiful, brilliant daughters. And I discovered early on in starting my company, Silverdraft Supercomputing, that I can't have it all. Okay, maybe you can, but I certainly could not find balance. And believe me, I tried. How do I manage my family life and my business? I think of it as that teeter-totter. Balance is almost impossible, but you can find harmony in moving back and forth. I plan my work schedule to drive my daughters to school in the mornings, go to games, events, etc. I love it. I hate to miss anything. Just last month, I was driving my daughters to school, and they were upset with me because of my busy job and the amount of travel that I must do. And I shared with them what it's like being a woman in business and the opportunities that they have. I also asked, why do you not get upset with your dad if he can't cook dinner or has to travel for work? Their response, Mom, that's just what women are supposed to do. That's the way the world works. Here I am, mother, CEO in tech, sharing with my daughters they can do anything, and at 11 and 14, they already have this mindset, the narrative of others. I have played many roles in my life, literally and figuratively. We all do. We choose our story, our narrative, as we go through the big and small shifts in our lives. As a sister, I was told that I was strong and powerful, that I wasn't just a pretty face. Sadly, my older brother passed away when I was 17. But I chose to be strong and powerful, that regardless of how broken my heart was, I found my narrative. He would be standing beside me in spirit, and I would live a life that he would be proud of, with appreciation for what and who I am. We continually create our narrative, our choice of how we want to handle something, who we want to be, and what we want to take on. As we play these roles, we can either allow these shifts to define us or just inform us of who we are. I was 22. I was modeling in Spain, and I woke up one morning and I looked in the mirror and I looked different. Not like me. I had this thought that something was going to shift in my life that day. I looked so peaceful. I wrote down what I was feeling. Later that day, I was walking across a major street, and a Mack truck ran a red light and hit me. It was going 45 miles per hour, and I flew 35 feet. It's a miracle I survived the shift. After years of physical therapy, I could finally walk and get what was in my head out of my mouth. I am blessed by that experience. It has informed me of who I am, strength and the ability to overcome. What is your Mack truck moment? Give up? It didn't kill me. Choose your path. turn it into something positive. Each of us goes through so much. Life challenges don't define you. They provide opportunity to be more than you believed you were. We learn from those experiences. I love the shifts, overcoming the impossible, listening to problems, and working with teams to solve them. As a young actor, I hid from my inner nerd. I was obsessed with technology. I actually used a wizard instead of a day planner. Do you remember those? Okay. Now I'm dating myself, but it's basically a smartphone without connectivity since that didn't exist. And you could keep your calendar and your life in it, which I did. And then as a producer, I was sure in Hollywood we were using the latest and greatest technology. But I soon discovered we were not. I wanted to create content that put control in the audience, end users' hands, giving them choice and freedom in how they interacted with their content. Then as a producer, that was key. I was told that this was not possible, that an audience would never view content on a cell phone, and that a TV and a computer monitor, they were not the same thing. I basically was told I was crazy. Oh, no. For me, this meant that there was opportunity, a need to look at something in a different way, a shift. I love technology. But technology can hinder an artist. I built Silverdraft to free the artist. So what does that even mean? Well, we live in a digital world. And with that comes the challenge of taking what's in an artist's imagination and getting it out in the form of computer generation. Computers can't keep up with what's in an artist's mind. But what could be created if a computer could? If a computer was fast enough to take what's in an artist's imagination and get it out, what could be created? That is what I wanted to build. Computers to free the artist, not hinder the artist. Similar to me needing to take what was in my head and get it out of my mouth after my Mack truck moment. I challenge myself and those around me to push ourselves. We can be more than we think we can be, regardless of what people say or assume. I get lost sometimes, scared even. But I look in that mirror and I see myself and I push to overcome. There's this assumption of who I am by others based on my appearance. It isn't meant as negative or mean necessarily, just part of the norm. But I've never strived to just be norm. I want brilliance around me. I want to learn from that brilliance. What if our jobs as humans was just to keep learning? Half the time I feel like I don't know anything, that I am playing a role, and at some point, I'm going to get caught. Silly, right? In fact, this whole TEDx talk was initially going to be just about the technology and the freeing of the artist. But as I worked on the talk, and I struggled with myself and my insecurities, something else started to happen. I needed to create my narrative. As I started my company and I went out for investment, it was difficult. As a woman in tech, I couldn't even walk through some doors. Others, they just freely swung open. But I never allowed the narrative of me being a woman placed on me. I was building a very different story. If I'm in a meeting and a man is not listening because he's too busy looking at my chest, I stop talking. And when he finally realizes and looks up and says, "What?" I said, "Oh no, I'll give you 5 more seconds and then you can actually look me in the eye and we can finish this discussion." That really happened. Thank you. Or when I was offered $7 million to invest in my company, and one of the deal points on the actual contract was to sleep with him, I remained calm and professional and said, "That point is a deal breaker." He continued to negotiate other equally as disgusting possibilities until I finally ripped up the contract and walked out. I controlled my narrative. Each of us has a choice of how we want to handle adversity in our lives. I have stood my ground, said no, defended myself, created my own path, but in all of it, by not being a victim, by staying quiet, by driving my path, I realized I was not protecting those females that came behind me. That is what I have learned. This madness was so the norm that I didn't even know I needed to be vocal. It's just how it was. How some men were, and I'd make a difference by proving myself through success. In modeling, it was in-your-face dangerous. Hollywood, we were all very aware of what was going on. It truly was the awful norm. Tech? Well, in some ways worse, because you usually do not see it coming. However, there are amazing men who push women to be great, and no one talks about them or the advantages of being a woman. Just like the bad, the good exists. I have several advantages that my male counterparts do not have, and I have several counterparts that cheer me on and make me better. Yes, I will be strong, but there was just something about the Me Too movement that was bothering me. And I had to look at myself and discover why. Because honestly, I could hashtag Me Too daily, and the stories I could tell, it would shock the best of them. But I discovered it wasn't Me Too that was bothering me. It was me. It was the fact that even though I stand up for myself in the moment, something was missing. Yes, I must continue to be strong, but I can't be strong just for myself. Progress will continue to happen through speaking out in the moment, working together, and learning from those around you. As women and men, we are just on the teeter-totter of life's challenges. We have our shifts and we just continually work to figure it out. Find, create, control your narrative. I ask my daughters to have a voice, to not be a victim. If someone pinches your behind, don't ignore it. Turn around and say, "Excuse me, does this butt belong to you?" I think not. I'm a mess a good deal of the time. And my Wonder Woman day, it was pretty bad, pretty goofy, but I owned it. You have your roles. I have my role. I create my narrative. And I want to be Wonder Woman. Thank you.